Over the years, it has been noted that many people miss the glory days of the PS2, a console that lasted from 2000 all the way until 2013. That means it saw the creation of systems like the GameCube and even the PlayStation 3. Man, what a life it had. This legend is even the best-selling console of all time, so obviously this console released banger after banger. Vice City, SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, Manhunt, Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, and Sly Cooper. But what about the titles that aren't brought up as much, but deserve some love? That's what we're here to talk about today. Here are 10 underrated gems on the PS2. Starting at number 10, we have the Getaway Black Monday. In a world where we have Grand Theft Auto, True Crime, and the Driver games, this one sets out to set itself apart from other titles. First off, there is no heads-up display, meaning you can't see how much ammo or health you have, or where you're going. My guess is they were trying to aim for realism, which in a way works pretty well and hinders in other aspects. For example, it took me a second to realize how the guns worked, because you don't get a reticle to shoot. It feels sort of awkward, but you have to pretty much aim the gun right at the place you want to shoot, which, okay, that kind of makes sense. The characters will warn you when you're getting low on ammo, so you have to pay attention. If you get low on health, you can either find med stations, or if you sit still near a wall, he will lean against it to essentially get his wind back and heal his wounds like he's Wolverine.
I can't take much more of this.
The gunplay, once you get used to it and how the aiming works, is fun and unique. Having the choice to either run and gun or aim and shoot is a cool concept for its time, setting it apart from other open world-esque titles of the time. Side note, I just want to say that it still kind of bugs me how Mitch's head looks way too big for his body. He almost kind of looks like a freaking bobblehead and I can't get over it. Anyway, once you get a car, you realize how big this open world can be. If you look at the map, it's a pretty good size. Instead of the game giving you a waypoint to your objective, your car will flash its blinker, telling you which general direction you need to head. It's not a mechanic you see used in many, if any, other games to this day. And steering can be a bit, tight to say the least. Oops. Sorry, my bad. There are 3 playable characters in the game, each with their own abilities and playstyle, which might have been an influence for Grand Theft Auto 5 and how it juggles 3 characters. If you haven't already, I'd recommend to go play this one. At number 9, we have Godand, which was the last ever title made by Clover Studio, which was dissolved shortly after the game's release. Clover also made the titles of Beautiful Joe and Okami, so they made some pretty solid games. Godand is a unique specimen, as it's a title that took the beat-em-up genre to a whole new level. With upgradable techniques that you can build punch by punch or kick by kick, combo moves, ball kicking, and comedic lines of dialogue and characters, it really stands out as its own.
Sick 'em!
Help! Help! Help!
It's a shame we never got a sequel to follow it up. The controls are pretty straightforward, with buttons that kick or punch, or pressing a direction with certain buttons do different moves. You also get this roulette wheel of power moves that really knocks their socks off. You can dodge in any direction and taunt your enemies to get their blood boiling. Inflicting damage will build up your difficulty meter. The higher the number, the harder the combat will be, but more rewarding. In the first 2 levels, the enemies won't do much unless in direct line of sight. 3 or higher, and they will try to attack you anywhere and any way they can. Inflict enough damage, and you can take off that bracelet and unleash the God Hand. You are invincible for a brief period of time and inflict crazy damage. All the boss-type enemies are way over the top, like Fat Elvis, and I kid you not, this is word for word, a pair of twin, extremely flamboyant homosexual bodybuilders.
Hey! Sweetie! You're not going anywhere until you answer our quiz question! He's such a sexy man! Just my type!
I'm not that kind of guy.
Question time, sweet cheeks.
Oh boy, how times have changed. At the end of the stage, you can visit the shop to buy items or techniques, or visit the casino to play poker games or slots to earn some more cash. And if for whatever reason the shop owner pisses you off, you can smash her window to show her you mean business. The quirky yet comedic nature of this game is really a treat for anyone wanting a fun game to play. At number 8, we have Urban Chaos Riot Response. Within the first 2 minutes of popping in this bad boy, you get hit with this absolute banger.
Just like a man, I am immune.
Developed by Rocksteady, yes, that Rocksteady, this was their first game they ever developed, where you play as a member of a newly formed riot response team called T-Zero. You are Nick Mason, a cop with nothing to lose as you take on the Burners. The game uses the Havoc physics engine, so you can blow off their heads and limbs in gory fashion not common in many PS2 titles. Right away, the gunplay is fluid and fun, and you can collect all the enemy weapons such as cleavers and Molotov cocktails. This guy doesn't give a and will use anything to take them down. Every mission has a gang leader that, if captured by stunning him with your stun gun, unlocks a bonus mission to get new and improved weaponry in your arsenal. Each level has you taking out gang hideouts, commanding firefighters to snuff fires or knock down doors in your way, or command medics to help civilians or heal you. A real game changer is when you get the Riot Shield, your all-in-one battering ram. You can deflect bullets, ram enemies, and use it against fire drafts. Nothing is more satisfying than running up to a thug and bashing his face in with your shield, and there's nothing they can do about it. I remember renting this game from the video store back in the day and being blown away with how it looked and played. Imagine this game got a remake. It would be beautiful. Next at number 7 is Metal Arms Glitch in the System. Man, oh man, do I ever remember playing this game with friends, having fun just shooting each other in split screen. Made by Mass Media, this game follows a cute little robot named Glitch, who tries to save his friends from General Corrosive, who can later be unlocked for use in multiplayer. The animations between running and watching your antenna just flop around is absolutely satisfying. The gameplay reminds me a lot of Ratchet & Clank in the best way possible, except, it's robots. You can unlock weapons like rocket launchers, shotguns, and this grenade that splits into 3 rockets. At one point, you can control enemy robots from this arcade-looking console. The driving stages can get a little tedious, but manageable. I don't get why this game isn't brought up more often. It's just flat out fun. If you haven't played it, go play it now. At number 6, we have Oni. Now, I will admit, I never played this growing up, so this one was new to me and highly recommended. Made by our beloved Rockstar, this game has heavy influences from Ghost in the Shell, and the art style definitely shows that. You play as Kanoko, who has outstanding martial arts and gun skills, whose main goal is to expose and destroy the Syndicate. One of the more outstanding features of this game is how well Kanoko is able to maneuver. The way you can alternate between combat and dodging is somewhat of a spectacle of its time. No other game had the movesets you do in this game, as just a mere press of a direction with an attack button can dish out over 40 different varieties of punches and kicks, and combinations of the two. Not to mention the ability to duck, dive, and dodge, and do cartwheels. This game really encourages you to experiment with different button combos, as some can be more effective than others on certain enemies. You can find a large arsenal of different weapon types, though ammo can be pretty scarce, so it's recommended to use weapons only on other enemies with guns. It's highly encouraged to do hand-to-hand combat whenever you possibly can to save ammo, and that's part of this game's charm. Levels can be very Tomb Raider-like, with the need to solve puzzles and explore areas to find keys, consoles, and buttons. One of the earlier boss fights can be intimidating at first, but once you learn how to take them down, it's not all that bad. This is a title that severely needs either a remake or a sequel because this title is simply amazing. At number 5 is Jet Li Rise to Honor. This is one of those rare instances where a tie-in game, this time with Jet Li, is actually pretty solid. The PS2 era was notorious for having lots of licensed or tie-in titles of either movies or TV shows. Some were good, while most of them were just shameless cash grabs. This time, however, they decided to make a video game that feels like a movie, but is its own entity, and it works like a charm. The story is you play as Kit Yun, voiced by Jet Li himself, who is an undercover cop and bodyguard to Boss Chiang, who ends up getting killed, and you fight your way through Hong Kong and the US to find out who was responsible. It plays out like a Jet Li movie properly should, with plenty of hand-to-hand combat and fast action gunfights and chase scenes. The hand-to-hand combat is so fluid and works very well, using the right stick in the direction of the enemy to throw punches or kicks. You can use the surroundings to your advantage between picking up chairs or using the environment to take out enemies. Each scene from gameplay to cutscene is almost seamless, as the game has next to no loading screens, as this was intentional, to make it feel like a movie. Each fight makes you feel like Jet Li, and taking out a whole room of bad guys is oh so satisfying. Sometimes it feels like you're watching a Jet Li movie just with PS2 graphics. This is one of those games I'd love to see get more and more love. At number 4 we have The Suffering. But this is one of those unique titles that we get once every console generation, as it just drops in, kicks ass, and disappears without a trace. You play as Torque, who is sentenced to death row after supposedly killing his wife and kids, but has no memory of doing so. Turns out there might be more going on inside his body than anyone will soon realize. The game quickly throws you into the thick of it, and is fully playable in either first or third person, depending on your preference. Either way you decide to play, there's always that sense of panic as you travel each corridor and hallway, not knowing what will lurk around each corner. The flashlight will be your best friend, along with a shank used to melee enemies, and soon enough you'll get a range of weaponry from pistols, shotguns, and flamethrowers, just to name a few. I'd knock this up to a more psychological action horror kind of game, but the gameplay itself is so much fun and very satisfying. You'll meet interesting characters along the way, and each enemy in the game is a reference to how they died in this penitentiary. Marksmen referencing firing squads, slayers represent decapitation, and mainliners for lethal injections. The whole concept around this game is very dark, and is more of an action horror as opposed to survival horror. Seeing a title like this today would turn some heads. Coming in at number 3, we have Cold Fear, a very Resident Evil-esque game. You play as Tom Hansen, a US Coast Guard sent to help a Russian whaler ship at sea, but soon find out there's more than just fishermen on this boat. Right away, the setting on the ship is pretty unique, as your player will sway with the ship's movements, which I'm glad isn't first person, or else I'd literally get seasick. I'm not sure if it's confirmed, but I did hear that they had to literally make thousands of walking animations due to the motion of the boat and how the player can move about. Anyway, going back to the Resident Evil idea, you try to find items and keys to unlock new areas. A major difference though is that the game has less tank-like controls and more of an over-the-shoulder type movement, more akin to Resident Evil 4. Once you realize there's something on board infecting the soldiers, the game starts to get really intense. You'll see dead soldiers come into life, and the only way to kill them is to blow their heads off. The part that startled me the most is this part where the whale bursts open with hundreds of flying parasites coming flying out, which I decided I wanted nothing to do with. The atmosphere is intense, and you never know what is lurking around each corner. If you want more survival horror in your life, this is what I'd recommend. Sliding its way into number 2 is Cold Winter, made by Swordfish Studios and with head writer Warren Ellis. If you're not sure who that is, a quick Google search will tell you loads. But to give you an idea, he wrote the game Dead Space and was head writer for the Castlevania animated series, just to name a few of his accolades. He also had a hand in writing a bunch of Marvel comics, one of which was the basis for the film of Iron Man 3. Anyway, back to Cold Winter. The game was very revolutionary for the first-person genre, and for games as a whole. Although the game received average scores at best when it came out, it was nominated Best Story of 2005 from GameSpot. The game used the Karma physics engine, which allowed for state-of-the-art ragdoll effects and interaction with your environment. You can move boxes and barrels and other items to your advantage to make makeshift cover. A major feature not seen in many games before or after is the ability to make your own cover by flipping over beds and tables in any direction deemed necessary to protect yourself from the incoming bullets. This is a feature missing in so many modern shooters that it needs to come back. You get a huge arsenal of over 40 weapons to find and use, and even craft explosions and tools with items you find laying about. Each mission is different from the last, and each level feels fresh and worthy of exploring. The gunplay is average, but with everything else going on, you can't hardly notice. Another major feature is the dismemberment system, not widely used on the PS2. You can destroy an entire body from head to toe. I'd love to see a remake or a sequel, but I doubt it'll ever happen. Finally, coming in at number 1 is Dark Watch. Developed by High Noon Studios, who nowadays is famous for working on the Call of Duty franchise and Destiny, is a first-person shooter that mixes Western, horror, and steampunk all in one package. And it works oh so well. You play as Jericho Cross, which is such a 19th century cowboy name if I ever heard one. He is bitten by a vampire named Lazarus Malkoth, and is then forced by a group called the Dark Watch to fight supernatural forces with his awesome Redeemer pistol, which is totally badass. Along the way, you have choices throughout to do evil or good deeds. You can either feed on lost souls or condemned people, or set their souls free. Based on a reputation system, you get different powers depending on if you decide to be good or evil. For example, if you choose to be good, you can get silver bullets that deal extra damage, or Vindicator, which shoots bolts of lightning. If you choose to be evil, you get powers like being able to turn the undead into allies or being immune to certain damage. You'll meet characters along the way, and your first good or bad deed comes at the death of your first companion, Cassidy Sharp, which honestly I didn't think she was going to die so quickly.
The cross burns you because you are weak. You have been chosen. In time you will know why. Until then, you suffer. You must feed Jericho.
The weapons in this game range from rifles, crossbows, shotguns, and more. The whole game with its creatures and setting are all very unique for its time, and even so today. Not often do you see a game like this, and honestly, with the lack of creative IPs in today's gaming landscape, I would love to see even a remake of this game. It reminds me a lot of Van Helsing and the Army of Darkness in the best ways possible. We need more games like this today. And that's it for my list today. Which ones did you agree with? Which ones did you disagree with? Let me know in the comments below. And also, let me know what you'd like to see for some future videos. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.